Yo, it's me Adobo, and in today's video we'll be ranking the bosses of Demon's Souls on the PS5 from worst to best. Throughout my years I've been kind of a ranking maniac. I've always loved a good countdown discussion. Hearing people's thoughts on a subject that you have knowledge and interest about is always intriguing and can enrich in your expertise on a certain topic if you participate in it as well. The Demon's Souls bosses come with a very interesting roster of enemies, as most of them are to be fought keeping one thing in mind. What's their weakness? That's right, trying to find the one piece of the puzzle that's keeping them together, yank it away from them and make them crumble. For that reason, and of course it being the eldest child of the Soulsborne catalogue, the bosses in this game don't have the mechanical depth and complexity that came along with the future titles. But that doesn't mean they don't have some bangers of their own. Let me know in the comments if I'm spot on with the order I present, or if my opinions suck and I should get good. Just before I get into the ranking, I'm only ranking the bosses with them big fat health bars at the bottom of the screen, so no old King Doran, although he is hard as fuck, and no red or blue dragons either. Without further ado, let's begin the ranking with... The worst boss in Demon's Souls in my opinion is this huge behemoth, the Dragon God. This guy, yes this guy, is the worst fight in the game, and for one big reason. And that is due to the disappointment I had on my first playthrough after I defeated the enthralling Flame Lurker, only to walk further on into this admittedly awesome looking arena but slowly come to the realization that this was essentially a damn stealth. This battle, if you can even call it that, just consists of the player running from one hidden platform to another while smacking down any rubble that gets in your way, with the goal in mind being to get to the two ballistas to immobilize the Dragon God for a final beatdown, all the while avoiding the gaze of the Dragon God himself. If his eyes are showing yellow, that means you're safe, but if his eyes turn red, be prepared for a punch to the face. It's annoying because oftentimes it's when your weapon is in this animation of attacking the rubble that you'll be spotted and dealt with. As nice that the animations and sounds are, I just can't look at how unsatisfying the boss fight is as a whole, because sometimes it just feels like luck as to whether I survived running past his watch. Even at the end you just smack him down a bit and the fight is over. It gets really tedious after a few times as there's no safe progress when it comes to the ballistas, and having to wait and run past each time feels seriously irritating. As the final boss of the game, I think we were all somewhat disappointed with how the fight turned out. It's more of a lore/story boss than an actual dramatic clash with a tough foe, as the True King's moveset, like a lot of other bosses in the game, is extremely slow and limited. It's more of a challenge to die to him rather than to actually beat him. Of course, it's a tough call on where I should have placed the True King, as the story and lore values are really high and vital to the game's foundation, and I can at least say that these components dragged it away from the bottom spot. But let's be real, it's far and away the easiest fight in the game, probably the whole series. He plays higher than the Dragon God at least. What a dog shit fight that is. This humongous lumbering arbiter of death makes his way to number 16 on today's list. The Adjudicator is the boss of 4-1 and, like many others in the game, has a gimmick to the fight that once figured out makes for an easy kill. The only way to damage him is by attacking the golden crow atop his head, which can be done from far above if you're wielding magic or using a bow, though watch out for that disturbingly long tongue of his. If you're using melee, then you have to smack the wounds that are visible on his body enough times until his fat ass falls over, where the bird will be at your mercy. His moveset is exceptionally easy to avoid, as all he does are a few swings that take about 5 business days to connect. His lore's pretty cool though. The Adjudicator grew to this rather unhealthy size by consuming the souls of those who wish to venture on through the Shrine of Storms, and it's alleged that he was the one who administered the judgment of the deceased, punishing them for any misdeeds they may have committed, whilst guided by his true master, the Golden Bird. Well, lore's not enough to make up for the fact that this fight is painfully simple and boring, which is really the problem that arises from having a lot of these puzzle-like style fights, but I'm glad that FromSoft experimented with their first game and tried a lot of new things. The Old Monk, a black phantom controlled by golden runes, makes its way into number 15 on the list today. This undead is the one who's been overseeing all the messed up experimentation that's been going on in the world of Latria. The robes that he's wearing are the ones which are able to summon anybody who offers their aid. This means if you're playing online, you'll be faced with another player from across the globe, whereas if you're playing offline, you'll just be fighting a random NPC. I opted for the offline version as I like to enjoy these games with generally no online components, and I forced the Old Monk to watch as I had a fight with a guy that makes Pinwheel look intimidating by comparison. Seriously, the offline version of this fight is without a doubt one of the easiest things in any of these games, maybe even comparable to the mighty Soldier of Godric from Elden Ring. If you play the online version and do die to someone who's experienced in PvP, then be prepared to do that stupidly annoying run back again. I much prefer the soundtrack in this particular fight in the PS3 version, as I think it's more fitting and the vibe that it's going for is presented in a better manner. Compared to the PS5 Grand Orchestra that makes it look like you're about to fight Ludwig from Bloodborne or something. It's not that hype, man. Whether you beat all the other worlds before coming to the Valley of Defilement, or you just complete all of the Dash 1 levels in order, most players will probably come to the Leechmonger and have an exceptionally easy time with it. It's a case where the area is the real boss. Leechmonger's design is just a mass compilation of leeches, and he hides amongst the arena swamp until the player walks unsuspectingly into his lair. If you arrive to this area of the game first, then you'll be in for a rough time, I imagine, as the Leechmonger can take a lot of hits to take down, and with the addition of his healing mechanic can definitely cause frustration. But for appropriately leveled players, we'll have no trouble whatsoever mowing down this disgusting mess of a boss, especially if you use its primary weakness against it, which is fire. There is something appealing about its arena and the way that you make your way down, kind of like the Adjudicator's arena, and at least with the Leechmonger there's an actual fight to be had. It's just not an exciting one. The armor spider comes in at number 13 as the boss of the smithing ground. It's a gigantic red-eyed arachnoid that doesn't do a very good job of scaring the arachnophobic part of me, mainly due to its metallic looking design. On my most recent playthrough, I had a lot of trouble when faced with it, mostly because of those damn webs that it shoot out. They stop your rolls and reduce your sprinting speed, allowing for you to be an easy pick when it launches out its fire projectiles. Getting up and close with the spider felt extremely intense, as one mistake could prove fatal with its cross-leg sweeps and crushing moves, as well as the infamous attack where they spread flames across the entire arena, causing you to dash away right at the start of the room. Once you're up in its dick and you get the flow of attacking and dodging down at the correct time, it feels quite rewarding to mow it down. I know that sounded like basic common soul sense, but with this fight in particular, I felt like I had to get good if I wanted to advance through the Stonefang tunnel. Our first proper boss of the game. Guarding the entrance to the Lost Path, we have the Phalanx. After unlocking the lever to the main door that you see right from the very start of the level, a glowing white aura that's protected by a bunch of ferocious hoplites are the boss that you'll encounter. While defending their leader, these dangerous warriors will poke and lunge at you with their vicious spears in an attempt to keep you away from slashing at the main body. Throughout the area, you'll have collected some fire bombs, as well as a pine resin that'll assist you massively in the fight if you haven't already used them by now. The Phalanx can also generate its health if left alone for a while, which for the first boss is kind of a dirty tactic in my opinion, but that's my only real gripe with the fight. It's an iconic encounter, so much so that they even referenced it in Dark Souls 1 with their own version of the Phalanx in the Painted World that also serves as the best farming strategy, by the way. As a first boss, I think they're pretty decent for the game, as it teaches you that a majority of the bosses going forward will have like one gaping weakness that you'll need to exploit if the player wants to emerge victorious. In number 11 we have the Dirty Colossus, a creature turned deformed because of the accumulation of the filth that inhabited the Valley of Defilement. Praise goes to the design of the boss, as in my opinion it looks pretty awesome and interesting, complementing the hellish shape that this world in particular has to offer. The fight itself, pretty enjoyable, balanced between his swings and punches, and not to mention the move where he likes to shoot a load of flies that'll attach onto you. I totally forgot that these could be removed by stepping near the fire in the arena. Maybe it's the fact that 5-2 is a dumpster fire of a level, and fighting something simplistic yet balanced like this makes the boss seem better in my subconscious mind than it really is. It's weird because I'm viewing this boss as very middle of the road. There's nothing horrible about it other than the preceding level of course, but there's also nothing to write home about either. It really is just a simple duel with a foe that stands in your way of progress, and sometimes that's all you need after battling through a mental nightmare such as the Swamp of Sorrow. I feel kind of bad for this, but the boss of the tutorial zone, the Vanguard Demon, cracks our top 10, beating out 8 others in the process. In fairness, the rematch in Island's Edge also contributes to the ranking, even though that kind of breaks the rule I set at the start, but screw it, it's my list. He's one of those bosses that you're not meant to defeat on the first try, but if you are skilled enough and have prior experience from other Souls games, you will recognise his moveset and that it shares many similarities to that of the Asylum Demon and his variants in Dark Souls 1, as well as the Erdtree avatar from Elden Ring, so it is very possible for you to demolish him on the first attempt. It's nice that you're also rewarded if you do beat him on the first try. You get some weed, get some rocks, and you also get some other nice tools as well that'll help you in your journey going onwards. The rematch in 4-1 is quite a bit more jarring, as it's possible to have the Storm Beasts and the Skeletons snap you from afar, causing for some serious disturbance amidst your epic reunion. I think what also helps is that it's a great challenge for all players. No one's got to stomp through it, no matter how good you are, due to the first encounter being like right away, so you're with fresh stats. So you're going to need to lock in if you're planning to defeat this colossal creature. Before there was Pinwheel and the Crystal Sage, we had the Fool's Idol to contend with as the OG spellcaster who'd clone themselves in battle. For starters, I love the opening cutscene that plays upon her entering the arena. The way she floats down in an angelic fashion really portrays the image that she truly is the Queen of Latria. Of course, she herself is a doll created by the old monk to fool those in Latria into worshipping her as some sort of deity. The music in this fight is great as well, but I can't help but think that the PS3 version did it better, since that version's melody added to the creepy atmosphere that the fight had going for it. The moments of silence between each tap of the piano just added so much eeriness to everything. I'm not trying to dunk on the remake soundtrack because I do think it's a stellar piece of soundwork, but they just have very different vibes going for them when you hear each piece in their respective boss fight. Well, enough about the music. The Fool's Idol, like I said, likes to clone herself after you initially walk up to her and bombard her with the swings from your weapon. There's an easy way to tell which ones are fake, and that's by locking onto them and distinguishing which of the clones have health bars and which one doesn't. The one that doesn't is the real deal. The electric traps can prove to be fatal for the player, as if they're stepped upon, you'll be paralysed in place, where you're left vulnerable to any manner of attack. Luckily in my footage, every time I got caught, I think they felt sorry for me and left me be, but usually getting caught means a swift beating. If you do manage to kill the Fool's Idol, but don't kill the dude atop that can revive her, then I'm sure you're going to think that your copy of Demon's Souls is bugged or something. I managed to find him on my first playthrough, but I can only imagine what my reaction would have been if I didn't and I just went through with the fight over and over. Overall though, it's a pretty good fight and has a great setting and atmosphere that pushes it above a lot of the other mediocre fights in this game. Coming in at the number 8 spot, we have the Old Hero. This guy has a sick design, what with his badass curved sword that he slices you up with, and that intimidating yet radiant glowing aura that emanates from his figure. The fight itself is more of a cat and mouse chase, as he's blind, so the Old Hero will cautiously look for you around the arena, listening for any sound the player might make. And once he becomes furious, he turns into a frenzy, attacking the space around him. His attack might deal a surprising amount of damage if connected, but through the power of spacing, this fight becomes a hell of a lot more manageable. Everyone knows this, but if you use the Thief's Ring, then this fight becomes a foregone conclusion, a joke, as you can just run up to him or walk away with no cause for concern, unless your controller happens to disconnect or something. If it was a bit more challenging, then I could definitely see him rising through the ranks, but then again, thinking about that abysmal run back kind of makes me glad that he's not a titan of difficulty, because I'd rather eat a bowl full of needles than do that shit another time. One of the most iconic bosses of the game, the Tower Knight, makes his way to number 7 on the list. This ginormous, striking force of nature, clad from head to toe with an immaculate set of armour, paired with his powerful tower shield and meddling lance, is one of the most well-known bosses to come from the game. From the intro cutscene to the presentation of the fight and its unique yet imposing soundtrack, everything about this fight sticks out in one way or another. His arena is plagued with Boletarian soldiers ready to shoot you down upon entering the battlefield. This type of gameplay design would later be replicated in Bloodborne with the One Reborn and the maidens in that fight. The right way to go after this boss is to hack away at his ankles, similar to the Iron Golem from Dark Souls 1, until he falls over, where his head will be exposed, and you can give him brain damage. After replicating the process once or twice, the victory should be yours. In my opinion though, this fight is quite tricky because most of the Tower Knight's attacks are AoEs, and the battle is more centered around positioning yourself rather than rolling from the attacks when you see them. Another slight issue I have is the tediousness of the fight, as dying numerous times means having to pick up the archers every time, and that gets pretty tiring on each each attempt, so I just ended up beating the boss head on with the archers free to shoot as they please in my gameplay, which at least nets you a trophy in the remake. Maybe it's because I always go straight to the Lord's Path after killing the Phalanx, but I find this guy pretty damn tough for Demon Souls standard, and that sluggish runback does not help. But overall, the Tower Knight has a lot of great things going for it, and it shows off what a spectacle the game can be. Arguably one of the hardest bosses in the game, the Manitors are my choice for number 6 in this list. I used to view this fight considerably higher when I initially played the game, but over time I came to realise that there are aspects in the ones above it that I value a bit more highly, so I placed them ones ahead. That and the flaws of this fight became really apparent on subsequent playthroughs, like the AI sucks and creates for a very confusing and unnatural fight, which also generates quite a bit of frustrations when some deaths feel out of your control. Sometimes they just fly off into the sky and seemingly take a trip elsewhere, as I feel like they take ages to return. On my first playthrough I laughed it off, but now it just gets irritating waiting for them. I'm especially critiquing this because this is the remake I'm talking about. The AI should not be like this on a remake of an old game. These are the issues you're supposed to fix from Soft, so it's disappointing that it's still a thing. Anyways, they're still pretty high up on the list because I still ultimately enjoy the challenge that they present for the game. I'm always focused and locked in when fighting these guys, and the thrill that I have when the battle flows smoothly creates for a fantastic high in Demon Souls. They're also famous for starting the whole "the second enemy flies in when the first one is halfway down" trope that I'm kind of sick of now with Elden Ring, but that doesn't take away from their fight in particular. I also enjoy the arena that they're situated on. Despite how easy it is to fall off, it cautions you into adopting a careful playstyle and watching your step as you make sure that gravity doesn't kill you off instead of the man-eaters. The fact that you're fighting these creatures in the depressing dark green sky adds a sense of dread to the whole encounter that I definitely appreciate. It's a pretty good fight as a whole, with some annoying issues that drag it down in the grand scheme of things. Heading into the top 5, we commence with Maiden Astraea. Demon Souls' boss roster is indeed refreshing and unique, with a catalogue of fights so varied that you're always left with a different experience upon each occasion. With the Maiden Astraea and her companion, Garl Vinland, instead of an intense battle with a nightmarish creature, similar to the other bosses that inhabit the Valley of Defilement, we're treated to an excellent storytelling encounter, one that changes our view and perception of the narrative once completed. The cutscene that starts the fight off showcases you as the one intruding upon their safe haven. You are the one that must be dealt with in their eyes. The fact alone that they can talk presents an interesting dynamic, one where you're forced to hear what they have to say. Before you even get close to Garl Vinland, Maiden Astraea asks you in a civil manner to head on back to leave them be. The music in this fight is amazing, both the PS3 and the PS5 version, and it adds so much to the atmospheric nature of the fight, with parts that represent the Maiden's compassion whilst also sounding somewhat haunting, like are we really about to slay this defenseless person for our cause? The duel with Garl Vinland feels pitiful, mainly because I parried him to pieces, but also because it feels like killing off a feral warrior, one that also just has to follow the task that he's been given. It can feel a bit clunky fighting him, and whilst he does hit like a tank, just wait and bait and punish and he'll be down in no time. Once you reach the Maiden, if you listen to her dialogue, then upon finishing it, she ends her own life, which ends the fight as well, and it's definitely one of the most emotional moments of the game so far. You sit there and just think about the heinous act that you've just committed. No celebration, no cheering that you beat a boss like usual, just your thoughts and actions lingering on in the back of your mind as you take the Archstone back to the Nexus. In our number 4 spot, we have the first true pure spectacle fight, Storm King. Over time, we'd get bosses like Yom the Giant, the Divine Dragon, and Rykar, Lord of Blasphemy, but they all came from this beast right here. This battle is a straight hit from start to end. The rain and thunder combined with the gloomy grey skies provide a mystical sensation in the arena as storm beasts circle around you over and over. I love the atmosphere of this battle. It feels almost otherworldly, as if we've been sucked into another dimension where our sole purpose is to kill the king of these creatures. Speaking of killing, the Storm Ruler that you get in this fight is absolutely breathtaking. The weight of the weapon feels so real, and with each swing reigns a majestic force that adds so much to the fight. I've criticised the soundtrack in some areas of the game, but they nail it in this fight. The overall sense of awe you get as you walk about for the first time is brilliant. Even the sound design of the smaller storm beasts and the swings of the weapon feels sublime. Each aspect of this boss really adds to the entire experience that's on offer and provides for one of Demon Souls' absolute bests. Whilst I do love me a good spectacle and a well presented story, one of my favourite aspects of the Soul series is just fighting straight up badass enemies one on one. And jumping into the top 3, we have just that with the Penetrator. Upon entering his arena, you think that you're finally getting to rip apart that fat official that's been taunting you throughout the world of Boletaria. However, when he gets impaled by the Penetrator sword, I couldn't help but gush with joy. Both at the fact that this annoying twat in front of us is down for the count, but also that an amazing looking foe has just entered the arena alone, looking to square up to us. He is so fucking cool, man, and in a game like Demon's Souls, where most of the designs are terrifying and outlandish creatures, this guy especially sticks out with his awesome looking armor and curse imbued sword that are so visually appealing to the gamer in me that I can't help but be awestruck when I enter his arena. The Penetrator is the precursor to all of our favourite duels with knights in armor like Artorias, Sir Alon and many more. Due to this, however, his moveset is incredibly basic and easy to bypass, but still manages to have that one deadly attack in the form of a noticeable thrust attack, while his weapon is kitted with fire that can be surprisingly fatal if hit by. Other than that, I'd say it's very manageable on his own, but if you are struggling, you can enlist the help of the lovable warrior himself, Bjor, and the fight will become a cakewalk as the Penetrator's aggression will almost entirely be on him the whole time instead of you. Having him as the finish line of Inner Ward makes the whole experience even better, as 1-3 is one of my favourite areas in the game, and they both complement each other very well in terms of the area's atmosphere and aesthetic. Great job FromSoft. In our run-up spot, we have the flaming hot devil himself, Flame Lurker. Infamous for how tough it can be, I can for sure see how newcomers to the series may hit a brick wall when first coming up against this dude. He has quick and unpredictable attacks that don't deal a ton of damage, but chip away at your health enough for you to run away looking for any moment to catch your breath and consume some grass. With his aggression, however, these moments are far and few, so you need to be in your A game, no matter if you're new or a veteran. I actually did die a few times to him on my most recent playthrough because of these reasons, but still had a fantastic time fighting this menacing monster. I revelled in the intensity that was unrivaled for the game at the point in fighting him. His AI can be janky at times, but I didn't find it nearly as bad as I found the man-eaters one. His design and cutscene are also amazing. The way he rips his way into the arena covered in all those flames, it all screams badassery and I love it. Compared to what the Stonefang tunnel usually has to offer, which is normally just heaps of mediocrity, and this motherfucker, the Flame Lurker is like a bright sun amidst the crabby conditions the tunnel and the smithing grounds prior put you through, and he gets the number 2 spot. When creating the list, I had an estimated range for where some bosses would land. Like I knew the Penetrator would become between 2nd and 4th, and I knew the Adjudicator was landing in the 15th to 17th range. As to what position exactly, I wasn't entirely sure until I finished my replay of the game and started gathering information for every boss. One thing I did know, however, was that Old King Galant was going to place right at the top of the list no matter what. He feels like the culmination of all the things that Demon's Souls has to offer. Great gameplay with interesting and varied attacks? Check. Amazing design and introductory cutscene that radiates an intimidating yet badass presence? Check. Fantastic music that initiates the grandiose tone of the battle? Check. Bullshit runback that can definitely have done without? Check. Seriously though, that elevator ride, the first time round is bloody amazing and always gets me pumped for what might as well be the final boss of the game. But when you die and realise that you have to ride the whole thing again, bruh. Other than that though, the fight rocks and still holds up to this day in every department. The moveset of the False King is the most fleshed out and interesting that this game has to offer by far, with rapid slashes and sword smashes that keep you on your toes throughout. There's also the massive AoE that can be punished if close, but slows the tempo down a lot if you let him pull it off. But the most infamous of his moves has got to be the Soul Sucker attack that actually drains a level from the player. Getting caught by this even once feels soul crushing, but raises the stakes that much more and makes you play with everything on the line. His design is on point, with the white and gold colours matching that kingly aura that he has on display. The way the cutscene displays his back as he rises to deal with the pest that has entered his abode, oh, it's so good. The music, being one of my favourite tracks as well, adds so much to the weight of the encounter, really hammering home that this is the king. We finally made it here. The fight's a classic in every facet, and I can proudly say that he's my favourite boss in Demon's Souls. Well, there you have it, my list of Demon's Souls bosses ranked from worst to best. This one shouldn't be too controversial, but hey, feel free to drop your thoughts and comment your favourites or least favourite bosses from the game. Thanks for sticking through the video, I'm honoured I kept you until the end, and if you made it this far, then please give the video a like and share it around. Subscribe to the channel as I'll be posting more content like this around Demon's Souls and the other Souls game shortly soon. Have a great day everybody, peace.